Since the release of Sea Power, there have been numerous opinions forums about the strength or perceived strength of Soviet warships in the game. This perception stems from the fact that many Soviet ships have exceptional anti-ship capabilities. Slavas, Sobremenis, Kivs, but standing above them all is the undisputed king of missile warfare in sea power, the Kirov-class battlecruiser. Now, recently I watched a video by a fellow YouTuber. I follow him regularly and I like his videos a lot. His channel is History of Everything, and the video I'm speaking about is the Russian Navy's horrible future. While I agree with most of what he says in that videos and other videos he makes, there's one passage that I really don't agree with, and when I saw it, it left me completely speechless. And it's this one.
The main missiles, the shipwrecks, they were designed for submarines. To actually use them, the Kirovs have to partially submerge their missile tubes to fire, which takes a lot of time and looks very stupid. Never mind attempting to modify the missiles to work with the ship. No, see, that costs money. Not to mention the introduction of Aegis and the fact that this behemoth of a ship could fire 20 missiles and would have to be launched against a carrier group that was well within range and able to hit back with its planes, defended by the Ticonderoga class. Yeah, it wasn't ever going to work. The Kirovs were giant white elephants. They were never ever going to work. In fact, if you play the game Sea Power, they have been buffed beyond belief, and the US forces have been nerfed to give them a chance.
Now, I believe that this particular segment, and especially its final statement, reflects a sentiment within the Sea Power community that I feel is quite unfair, and honestly undeserved. Now, today I aim to demonstrate why this perception misunderstands the game mechanics, the historical foundations of the game, the design principles of the game, and also history itself. But before anything else, let's speak a little bit about the Kirov-class for a bit. Now, the Kirov-class cruisers, they are often referred to as battlecruisers, and I actually did it before. They were not battlecruiser. A battlecruiser has absolutely nothing to do with what a Kirov was. But it was such a big ship, it was so powerful that a label of cruiser simply didn't feel enough. But it was a cruiser, not a battlecruiser. Anyway, it was a class of 4 ships that, on paper, were some of the most formidable naval platforms of the Cold War era. Their main weapons were the P-700 Granite missiles, known in the West as SSN-19 shipwrecks. The Kirovs also had advanced radar for the era and a very robust air defense suite. Now, this class was mainly built as a flagship and to dominate surface engagements. In the doctrine of the Soviet Navy, it was designed to, alongside the aircraft of the Soviet Naval Air Force, to defend the bastion areas of the Soviet Union. 4 ships were built: Kirov, Frunze, Kalinin, and Pyotr Veliki. By the way, I have absolutely murdered and butchered this pronunciation, but it's what it is. There was one more Kirov intended to be built, but it was cancelled in 1991. Now, with a displacement of nearly 28,000 tons, the Kirov was as expensive as big. Its main design features were interesting to say the least. I'll just name one instance. It was a nuclear-powered cruiser, but it needed conventional machinery to reach top speed. Now, who the hell makes a cruiser nuclear-powered, but needing normal machinery to reach its intended max speed? I mean, yeah. As mentioned in the video I included at the beginning, and it's true, the SSN-19 missile was designed to be fired by submarines and demanded some, let's say, creative solutions to fit them into a surface ship. Look, I'm not going to dive into the specifics of the design. Just let's say that as big as it was, it also has its faults. But faults or not, the thing was a true powerhouse. So much so that the US specifically reactivated and modernized the 4 Iowa battleships at a huge cost. And that was as a direct counter to the Kirov-class, because the US felt that such a powerful class of cruisers couldn't go unmatched by the US Navy. I also know that it's the fashion of the moment to crap on Russia and anything Russian and Russian equipment because of what's happening in Ukraine right now. And as a side measure, it's also fashion right now to crap on anything of Soviet design. Look, I share most of those points of view. I share that the Russian display in Ukraine is absolutely shameful. I do share most of that, but I think on this one, at least History of Everything missed the mark. The Kirovs in the 80s were no white elephants. They had faults, of course, they were flawed designs, but they were really powerful. In fact, that class was perceived as a huge threat by the West. I mean, you don't go unreacted for battleships at a huge cost because the Kirovs were white elephants, right? Now, speaking about sea power. In sea power, the Kirov shines as a fearsome missile platform. It's capable of devastating enemy fleets if used well. I mean, it has a combination of speed, firepower, it's resilient, it has really good anti-aircraft defenses, but particularly the missiles are brutal. However, like all platforms, it requires careful positioning and support to fully exploit this strength by minimizing its vulnerabilities. So with that established, let's talk a little bit about the game. Not the Kirov, the game. Sea Power is a strategy game with strong simulation elements. It strives to represent historical platforms with a high degree of accuracy based on their real-life performance, equipment, and capabilities. By simply playing the game, it's clear that the focus is on reflecting historical authenticity. But before diving deeper, let's remember something crucial. One thing is striving for historical authenticity and another is ignoring Sea Power is a game. This means concessions are made. A lot of platforms in the game, in real life, they have a lot of issues. A lot of operational issues, maintenance issues, reliability issues, but that doesn't mean they should be here in the game. After all, who wants to play a game where your ship constantly fails due to historical reliability issues? It wouldn't make sense and it would, without doubt, frustrate players to no end. Let me illustrate this point with one analogy, and that analogy is the F-14A. The Tomcat is an iconic aircraft, but as great as a weapon system it was, and in particular the A model, it was notorious for its unreliable and underpowered TF-30 engines. Yet in Sea Power, I don't see those issues. I don't see that unreliability. I don't see the servicing problems that the engine had. Does that mean that the F-14 is buffed in the game? Does that mean that it's a pro-US bias? Or does that mean that such problems just don't belong in this game? For me, it's pretty clear. And the same applies to the Kirov, and indeed all Soviet platforms in the game, and also some US ones. While those platforms had real-life issues, their inclusion in Sea Power focuses on their design capabilities, not on replicating every single flaw. Now, to be clear, the information presented by History of Everything is accurate. His videos do a fantastic job highlighting the very real and serious issues faced by the Soviet Navy during the Cold War. They had training deficiencies, they had equipment flaws, they had really serious design issues, but above all, they had critical safety concerns within the Red Fleet. But does it make any sense to include all that in Sea Power? Would anyone enjoy playing Soviet scenarios where malfunctions are systemic and problems are everywhere, and your ships constantly malfunction all the time? I don't think so. Now let's not forget that many of those issues about reliability, availability, malfunctions, well, they also affect some US platforms, and that doesn't happen in the game. What I'm trying to say is that these omissions, they aren't about buffing or nerfing one side or another. They are not about balance of any kind. They are deliberate game design choices, and they are aimed at creating a balanced and enjoyable experience for everyone. But the criticism I have seen directed at the game goes beyond that. And I think History of Everything referred to it when he said that US ships have been nerfed. Nerfed how? I mean, the only way I can imagine anyone perceiving that is how the standard anti-missile system struggled to shoot down some Soviet missiles. And once again, that perception is misleading. Now let me say this clearly. The US standard missiles work just fine. They just do, at least in their anti-missile performance. If you've watched my gameplay videos, and if you haven't, you really should, wink wink, you'll have seen and heard me mention so many times how crucial it is to intercept Soviet supersonic anti-ship missiles when they are still on the high part of their flight profile, before they dive to the deck and become sea skimmers. You'll also likely seen me repeatedly call missiles like the SSN-3 or SSN-9 as utterly useless. Why? Well, because they are not true sea skimmers, and as a result, they are easy prey for any US ship equipped with standard missiles, be it SM-1s or SM-2s. Now, here is something you might not know. The game's cut-off date for ships and equipment is 1985. Yes, I know, there are some exceptions. There's the SAN-9 on the Udaloi, but the intent is to represent systems as they existed up to 1985. With mods, of course, it's a totally different story. I'm talking about the base game here. The point is, in 1985, almost every defense system of the time struggled against sea skimming missiles. I mean, just ask the Brits, HMS Sheffield, a Type 42 destroyer, an anti-aircraft specialist. That ship was designed to protect British carriers against aircraft and missile threats, and yet it was sunk by a single sea skimming exocet. And trust me, exocet is no shipwreck, not at all. US ships weren't exceptions to this rule. I am sure some of you are thinking, but Ticonderogas, Aegis, yes, the big powerful defenses. No. Let's clarify. The Aegis system, or Aegis, I don't know how to say it in English. Yeah, the Ticonderogas. They were built around the SPY radar paired with SM-2 missiles. But the SM-2 missiles of the time were just as ill-equipped to handle sea skimmer threats as any other SAM system of the era. They simply were awful at the job. It wasn't until the SM-2 Block 3, specifically designed to counter low-altitude threats, that this weakness began to be addressed. And Block 3 development started in 1984. And Block 3 missiles didn't reach operational capability until 1989. In short, US missiles are incredibly effective against incoming anti-ship missiles unless those missiles are flying at very low sea skimming altitude. In those cases, they struggle, but the real-life ones also would have. It's not that those missiles are nerfed, it's that missiles of the era were really challenged by this kind of threat. And according to comments from those familiar with the subject, I've seen those people say that in sea power actually have a higher hit percentage against sea skimmers than what they should, and that what they would likely would have had in reality. So much for nerfing. Now, let me tell you how it works in the game. Anti-ship missile chances are calculated using a base chance for the missile model. Then they are adjusted by modifiers for specific circumstances. For instance, in the case of anti-missile engagements, two key factors matter as modifiers: speed of the targeted missile and altitude of the targeted missile. Speeds above 550 knots progressively reduce hit chances, while targeting sea skimmers also incurs a significant penalty. Now, translating to the game, SSN-12 missiles, for instance, have a terminal speed of 1,350 knots, and they fly as sea skimmers during their final approach. Shipwrecks, SSN-19s, they have a terminal speed of nearly 1,000 knots and do the same. They go in sea skimmers during their final approach. Now, the penalties to hit those are enormous in the final phase. However, if you intercept them during the high-altitude cruise phase, which ships with SM-2ERs can do, Belknap, Lihis, and now the Long Beach, well, turns out that the Soviet missiles, supersonic or no, they fall like flies, because when they are flying high, they are much easier to hit. But however, if you try to shoot them down when they are in terminal phase, just above the waves, yeah, you are going to miss a lot of missiles. Summing up, missiles of the era of Soviet power faced significant challenges in countering supersonic sea skimming threats. The game just reflects that. It's not a nerf, it's historical accuracy, it's how it was. Finally, I want to emphasize one thing. The Kirov was a surface combatant. It was a very large ship designed to fight very big missiles at other very big ships. But like any warship of this profile, it had a critical vulnerability: air power. Now you have to understand that the US naval doctrine has always revolved around the aircraft carrier. This is a fundamental principle, and it has shaped the design of their surface warships for ages. For the most part, US warships are intended to operate alongside carriers as part of an integrated battle force. This also explains why US warships didn't focus heavily on massive supersonic anti-ship missiles. They didn't need to. The carriers and the carrier-based air wings fill that role. So with the small harpoon and some tomahawks, anti-surface tomahawks, they had more than enough. Now, this difference in doctrines is what defines the stark differences between Soviet and US naval platforms in sea power. The Kirov, for instance, is powerful and deadly in a surface engagement, but is really vulnerable when faced with sustained air attacks. It just lacks the kind of integrated air power support that US fleets enjoy. As such, whenever a scenario features Kirov and no carrier on the US side is up for a very tough ride. But in those scenarios where the US carriers are present, Kirov just stands no chance. A squadron of A6s with 4 harpoons above can alpha strike any Soviet fleet with Kirov into submission, into hell and back. There's no questions asked, it just happens. Just as it would have happened in real life. And I'm just not making this up, I'm not speaking out of my rear end. There are videos in this very channel where I do use that. I bring the intruders up and I blow the whole US, the whole Soviet fleet apart. And when it wasn't intruders, it was B-52s with 12 harpoons above. So yeah, I just do it. Summing up, the perception that Soviet ships are buffed and American ships nerfed in sea power just doesn't hold. It's a game designed to challenge players with asymmetry warfare, but not favoritism. Asymmetry means that different sides have different advantages and disadvantages, and that nominally maybe one of them can be perceived as stronger. But it's not like that. Sea Power is also a game where platforms are included with their on-paper stats, leaving out defects or drawbacks that, while they were very real in the actual ships, they just have no place in a game like Sea Power. Anyway, I think that's it for this video. What do you think? Are Soviet ships overpowered, or is this just a misunderstanding of Sea Power's design? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more naval strategy content. Thank you very much for watching, and see you later.